All right, welcome back. This is day 3 of my recaps of the Charlotte Chess Open. So this is the third day that I was playing. It was a Monday, so Martin Luther King Jr. First game I had started off with black. I was playing against a 1268, and he started out with e4, which I was happy about because, like I said in my earlier recap, I really like the e4 structures. So I responded with e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then he plays for the center, playing d4. It's a very common move. And then after takes, you can take here with the knight, and then once the queen comes out, you're going to want to play like d6, and then bring the knight out, and then here in the castles. But I didn't really want to go for this because I felt like because he did play d4, he was going to be prepared for that line. So I went ahead and played this, which is a little bit of an inaccuracy. It's a little bit slow, but he takes, and then I take back, and then a couple moves. This is just simply developing, brings his queen out, and then here I play an inaccuracy. I don't know why I chose to play this as opposed to this. I kind of wanted to protect here and then push and then see if I could get this this kind of setup here with my pawns. But, you know, just playing this, I was maybe a little bit scared of him pushing the pawn. But in that scenario, you just take. So, you know, if I did something like this and then push and then he pushed, and it just kind of gets a little bit scrambled. The problem with putting this knight here is that you're not able to protect this pawn. So if you play knight f6, then the knight is able to protect this pawn, which becomes weak later on in the game, and you'll see why that's super important. But bishop out, not really taking advantage of the situation, but it is what it is. I played my bishop out, trying to develop it, and then after castles, in castles, he plays h4. So right now, white has a little bit of an advantage. Pretty much what's happening right now, his king's on this side of the board, so I'm trying to push my pawns. My king's on this side of the board, and he's trying to push his pawns. Now, this is looking really, really scary for me because, you know, he has these two pawns which are coming down pretty fast, and he has the ability to move the rooks and the queen all over to this h-file. So if he's able to open up my pawns, then, for instance, the queen can just come in here and mate me right here on this square, where the knight is no longer protecting. So I got a little bit of work I got to get done. I'm playing it a little bit slow. I'm trying to counterattack, but it's just not fast enough because white's just so fast in this situation. So he plays h5, trying to mess up my pawns. I play into the center, trying to get rid of this bishop diagonal, which is cutting off here, because I wanted, if he took here, my plan was to take with this and then push back and then bring up my rook. But there's complications here. He takes, I come back, which is a big mistake for him because it kind of gives me this diagonal which I wanted, so it's not as easy for him to win now. And after here, I decided to take the knight because after here and here, I wanted to be able to push up my rook and then guard this pawn, and so he didn't have any sort of like counterattack with this. And after that, I decided to sack my rook. Now with this push here, there was a couple things that I wanted to do. So I wanted to get this diagonal because one of the really scary things that white can do here is, like, for instance, bring his bishop here and then put it over here because it's being guarded by the queen, and then just bring in the queen behind it, and then I'm mated, and I can't do much about that. So I kind of want to get rid of this bishop. So if he takes it here, honestly, it's still winning for him, but it's a mistake. It's not winning by much, or as much as what it was. So he takes it. So now he doesn't have this long diagonal here anymore. And now he plays into here, and I find the best move, which is queen d8. And then after h6, he's threatening mate in 1, which is just queen here. And there's only one possible move which doesn't blunder mate, and that is knight h5, and I find it. And then here, if he tries to move the queen away, I'm just going to trade it, get the queens off the board, and then move into the endgame. And I'm totally fine with that. He decides to trade queens anyway, so trade. And then he again stacking my knight, move it, shuffle our pieces around a little bit. Here, he actually had a really nice tactic that I saw later, which is rook just takes the knight. And if I try to take back with the pawn, rook comes down here, and he's taking the rook and he's checking me, so then I'm going to have to move here, and then, you know, he can just move back or whatever. So he gets essentially a knight and a rook for just a rook, and a weakened pawn structure. So pretty nice, but he misses it, pushes the pawn. I play here, attacking the weak f3 pawn, defends it, shuffle my knight in so that I can move my king up into the center, trade of pawns, attacking my weak pawn here in the center. I fork both his rook and his bishop, and then here I'm more than happy to trade the bishop for the bishop, trying to just kind of simplify into an endgame where maybe I can draw the position. But with two rooks versus a rook and bishop, and you know, my pawns are kind of all over the place. I have two really weak pawns, and then these three aren't going to really do anything with these three already coming down the board. So it's not looking great for me. And I play here, so you can't really push this bishop at all because this is being guarded here, this is being guarded here and here, and then the pawn's going here, so this rook can't really move forward, and then this rook wants to keep attacking this one because of this. So he brings his king in, and then we trade rooks, and then I played here, hoping that my bishop would be able to just kind of move back and forth here and here, defending both of the pawns. But after here, attacking my bishop, I move back, he brings his rook in, and then he brings his other pawn in, so now both of these squares are just kind of occupied. I can't stay there anymore, so rather unfortunate. Trade pawns, I have to give up my other pawn, and then we have this position, and right here I saw kind of it's an interesting tactic, and I knew it probably wasn't going to work, but at this point I'm just super losing, so I said I might as well just go for it. And I was able to get it, and he's pushing his pawn. Basically he wants to get a queen and then go and checkmate me, and I run my king, or I should say I run my pawn all the way here, so the king has to take it, otherwise I'm going to queen. And he takes it, and that's really useful because now I can put my king here, and after he moves his pawn here, ready to queen it the next move, I play bishop g8, and if the pawn queens, for instance, it's a draw because my bishop is being pinned to my king, and my king can't go here because that's an illegal move. I'd be walking into check, and none of my other pawns can move. If I had this other pawn over here on d4 and I hadn't pushed it, then I would have had to move that pawn in that scenario, and then he would have been able to checkmate me. So that's why I had to get rid of the pawn first, and to try to get this drawing scenario. And it was funny because after I played this, he reached his hand over to touch this pawn to make it a queen, And if he had touched it, then he would have had to move it. And then he didn't think about this because we talked about it later. But what I told him he could have done is he could have made a bishop under promoted. And then after I move, and then let's say I move here, then he can let's see, like here, mate. So kind of an interesting scenario, but he finds a good move. He just moves the king over to the side, and then I'm forced to make my move. Because the bishop's not pinned, now I have to move. And now he queens, and then after here, he finds mate. Attacking king, and game over. So, not a great game. Definitely made some mistakes. And I had one more game left, and I thought, because up till this point, I had played 2 games of black, 2 games of white, and then the early game, which was this game, I played black. So I thought for my next game, I was going to get white. So I went home, I studied through this game, put it into the computer, did my analysis, kind of looked over my mistakes. And then I probably spent like 2.5 hours studying all my white openings, kind of prepping for that game. And then I drive back to UNC Charlotte. You know, I'm sitting there. I go up to they post little pieces of paper that tell you like who you're playing, what board you're going to be on, all that. And I look at the piece of paper and I didn't get white. I got another game with black. And I was like, oh, no. So, very unfortunate because I really wanted to play another game with white because I was 2-0 with white. But it is what it is. I got another game with black. And this was a really interesting game. Again, he starts with d4. I go into my d6, just like I did earlier. And then he plays e5, getting into the center, just like everybody else. This is what I wanted. And then I decided to play this move, which is a little bit different from what I've been playing, and just try to go after the center just immediately. And then if takes, just allowing this queen trade if he wants to do it. But he plays it a little bit slow. He plays c3, which is fine, but it allows me to get my bishop in here. So now after takes, and queen comes down, now my bishop can just take, which is what he decides to do. It puts my bishop in kind of a weird spot, but I'm going to be able to develop it. I'm going to be able to develop it pretty fast, and honestly, it says it's a draw. There's not much going on here, and I mean, he's also played it a little bit slow, so he doesn't really have much of an attack. But game continues, develops here and here. Develop all our pieces, and then he attacks over here on h3, pushing out my bishop. I thought about potentially doing and playing h5, and then after like here, sacking. But the problem is he hasn't castled yet. If he had already castled, I probably would have gone into that, and then potentially had kind of a nice attack going on his king side. It does kind of suck that I don't have a queen, but because he didn't have that, I decided to just take the knight, and then I ended up having this kind of free pawn here. Although it looks free at the beginning, but he finds the really nice move here, attacking the knight, which is defending this pawn, which is being attacked by this knight. So a lot of just kind of mayhem going on with all these bishop and knights here in the center of the board. But I'm moving my knight back, just trying to consolidate everything. He takes, I take, he takes another pawn. And then there wasn't really any way to save this pawn after this. So I play here, and after takes and takes, he has a little bit of a kind of goofy pawn structure, and I knew this was weak. This pawn here on e3 was weak, and I knew that I would be able to attack it later on in the game. And then I have these two really bad looking pawns here, and we have an endgame basically. So I play here, attacking the weak pawn. He comes back, putting his knight there. And then here he attacks my bishop. And I decide to take, forcing him to do something. I would say, and the computer agrees with me, best move would be to take here. That way you have all 4 pawns that are able to be connected with one another. But he decides to take here, which I knew was a little bit of an inaccuracy, because now instead of having 2 pawn islands, he has 3 pawn islands. And a little bit rough, but game continues. We shuffle around. Basically, I double up my rooks, trying to put pressure on this weak pawn here. And, you know, right now he's able to defend. And then I found this really, really good idea with the F pawn by pushing it up. And then after it takes and takes, you know, I'm able to do a lot of stuff here. And I'm threatening, you know, to take this pawn basically for free because he can't do anything because, you know, after it takes, you know, I can take. So he comes up here, defending, and he can't take this pawn. Some of you might be wondering, you know, why he can't just take this, because after takes, this pawn can't take my rook because it's being pinned. So he has to play here. And then I missed it. The best move in this scenario is just to take the free pawn. Because again, this pawn is pinned to the king. So I saw that the pawn was pinned to the king, but it never dawned on me that that made this pawn just free. And that this still doesn't work because I can take and then it's still pinned. So what my king move here allows is to get his king out of the way, so my pawn is no longer pinned. And after I continue to push my king, then he's able to just to take the pawn. And after takes and takes, he has very weak pawns, but again, he still has a lot of pawns. My king's kind of over here on the side of the board, not doing a whole lot, and he has a rook, so it's given white quite a little bit of an advantage. I play here. I'm going to win one of the pawns, and he decides he wants to give up the d pawn. I take, and then after here, I play here. Take. And now we have h pawns, we have a pawns. These 2 pawns are just going to run into each other, but he has a pass pawn here, which he's going to use to his advantage. The reason why white's winning is because he wants to use this f pawn to go queen, and then the king can kind of run over to this side of the board and take this, while my pieces are tangled up trying to take these 2 pawns. Basically is why he's winning. But he doesn't really see it at the time, and he's moving his king back over here. And we shuffle around for a little bit. One of the reasons why his king isn't coming in over here is because he can't really do anything, because this pawn is taking up this square. He can't really get over here to these squares because of my king. And then if he comes in here, it doesn't matter because he can't go here because of the rook, and he can't take because of the rook, and he can't go over here. So he's just pushing this pawn right now. And eventually he blunders and is able to give me the draw that I need. It's after here, here, and here. It's a little bit of an advantage for white, and there are some winning scenarios here, but it's very difficult to find. And after here and here and takes, basically this is a draw because white can't get over here to this pawn fast enough, and then I'm going to go take this pawn. Or if he decides just to shuffle back and forth, I can shuffle back and forth with my king, and I'm not going to let his king get out and move over here. So this pawn can't promote unless his king gets out of the way. So we push these 2 pawns together, and then he plays here. Now, if I move somewhere, wherever I move, this king is going to be able to get out, and I don't want his pawn to promote. So the only place that I can move, this is 100% winning, because here, and then I can't move into these squares, so if something like this, then here, and now I can't take because it's being guarded, for instance. So very possible to lose the scenario, but I found the best move here, and then here, and now I'm going to come around and take this while he goes here, and this is just a draw. And I saw that it was a draw, and, you know, draw. And then it wasn't a draw. And when I was here in this scenario, for the life of me, I don't know what I was thinking. If I had played this, or if I had played here, it would have been a draw. But for some reason, I thought to myself, like, oh, I'll just play here, and if he decides to try to come down, you know, I can come up on this side and then get the pawn or something like that. I don't know. I didn't even think about it for even 2 seconds, and I played this move, and the king just boxes me out, and now the pawn is going to be able to come up. And in this position, I resign the game. So yeah, that definitely hurt. I was very upset to lose my last game, in which should have been 100% a draw, and I saw that it was a draw, but I just, you know, you live and you learn. And if you give me 1 second, I wanted to just talk a little bit about my progression through chess. Basically, what's happened was I've been playing chess for a little while, and as you can see here, these are just my stats on chess.com, which is the website I've been playing at. And, you know, I just surpassed a little bit over like 5,000 games, and that was a pretty big milestone. And I wanted to see, the whole point of going to the tournament was to see kind of where I stacked up against other players, trying to get a FIDE rating, which is like the federal chess kind of bureau, all the people that put on all the chess tournaments that happen. That's FIDE. And I played about 5,000 games, and as you can see just from like some of my statistics, I started playing games back in 2019, and my rating then, like my actual rating, was like 730. And from there, you know, it's dropped up and down a lot. But I hit about 1,033 on Blitz, and then on Rapid, currently I'm 1341. So I wanted to kind of see where I would stand as far as like a classical rating. After the tournament was over, they sent me my new FIDE rating, and my FIDE rating right now is 1,211, which I was really proud of. I was ranked right there in the middle of the pack. The little group that I was playing in was 1,300 and under. So I was pretty proud of the rating, and I'm pretty proud of kind of my tournament. And I won 3, I lost 3. I'm going to play a couple more tournaments in Charlotte probably. Not anything as big as what the Charlotte Open is, maybe just like a day tournament, or go play a game here or there, see kind of what I can do. Just continue playing, continue enjoying chess. I think I might back off a little bit. I'm definitely going to have to learn an opening for black. Overall, it was still fun to play, and I really enjoyed it. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching the recaps. Thank you.